You've heard it for years, right? You gotta learn cloud. Everything's moving to the cloud. But what if I told you that's not really the whole story? Turns out, not everything should go to the cloud. The reality for most companies out there is a mix, a hybrid. And that hybrid world, well, it can be powerful, but it also comes with some serious headaches. So let's dive in and figure out how we can get from that headache to harmony. So let's just ask the big question right up front. Is the cloud really the answer to everything? The be-all and end-all for every IT problem? You know, it's super tempting to just say yes, but the truth is, it's a lot more complicated than that. The cloud is incredibly powerful, no doubt. But just throwing everything up there without a real plan, that can be a recipe for disaster.
To really get what hybrid is all about, we have to start with the two fundamental choices. The two paths every company has to choose from for their infrastructure. Do we build it all ourselves, or do we rent it from somebody else?
Okay, first up is on-premise, or on-prem as you'll usually hear it. This is the traditional way, the old school way of doing things. Your company buys the servers, the networking gear, the storage, all of it, and runs it in your own building, your own data center. You have total, absolute control because, well, you own the whole shebang. But that control, it comes at a price, a really steep price. Now, look at this number. That's not the cost of a whole data center. That could be the price for a single server. This massive upfront cost, what we call a capital expense or CapEx, is one of the biggest reasons companies started looking for another way. And that other way, that's the public cloud. Instead of buying your own $100,000 piece of hardware, you can go to a provider like Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud and just rent some of theirs. And the cost difference is it's staggering. You go from that massive upfront check to paying something like 10 cents an hour. That is a way easier pill to swallow. It completely flips your spending model from a huge capital expense to a much more manageable operational expense, or OpEx. So this is the core trade-off, right? With on-prem, you get that full control, but it costs a fortune to get started. And scaling up is slow and painful. With the public cloud, you're just renting. So the upfront cost is basically zero. And you get this almost magical ability called elasticity, the power to spin up or tear down servers in minutes with just a few clicks. And this elasticity unlocks the cloud's superpowers. We're talking about really modern ways of building applications, breaking them into tiny little microservices, running them in these lightweight things called containers, and then managing that whole complex orchestra with a tool called Kubernetes. This is the cool new way to build apps fast, and this stuff was born in the cloud. It's always been way harder to do on your own gear. Okay, so you're probably thinking, the cloud sounds amazing. Why on earth wouldn't you just move everything there right now? Well, this is where we get to the heart of the matter, the hybrid compromise. Turns out, not everything is a great fit for the public cloud. Some industries have super strict security or compliance rules, like GDPR for data privacy, that make it way easier to just keep that data in-house. Or maybe you have apps with just mountains of data, and storing all that in the cloud can get insanely expensive. Or A, maybe you need crazy low latency, meaning the server has to be physically close to whatever it's talking to. For all these reasons and more, some apps just have to stay on-prem. And that, right there, brings us to our definition. Hybrid cloud is just the reality for most businesses today. You use a mix. You put some things in the public cloud where it makes sense, and you keep other things on your own private on-premise infrastructure where you need to. You use both. Sounds like a perfect compromise, doesn't it? The best of both worlds. Except it's often not. In the real world, this hybrid approach creates two massive, incredibly frustrating headaches for the IT teams who have to manage it all. Let's break down these two big beefs. First, there's what we call the feature gap. This is where your IT teams are looking at all the cool new toys in the cloud and asking, why can't our on-prem stuff do that? And second, and this is the one that causes the real pain, it's an absolute management nightmare. So what does this management nightmare actually look like? Well, in a hybrid world, your IT teams basically get split in two. The people who manage your on-prem servers have a completely different set of skills and tools than the people managing your cloud stuff. I mean, just think about it. You've got your on-prem team, your server and network admins. Then you need to hire or train an AWS team. And maybe you use Azure for a few things, so now you need an Azure team. Oh, and you're probably using Google Cloud for something else too. Each one of those is its own world, with its own certifications, its own way of doing things. And you know what? It gets even crazier, because it's not just on-prem versus one cloud. The data shows that most companies, on average, are using around 5 different cloud providers. This is what we call multi-cloud, and it just multiplies the management problem. We're talking different portals, different tools, different billing. It's just chaos. So those are the headaches, the feature gap, and this management nightmare. But what if there was a way to fix both problems at the exact same time? What if there was a way to bring some sanity to all this chaos? I want you to just pause on this question for a second. Seriously, what if your on-prem team, the people who are experts in the tools they've used for years, could use those exact same tools to manage your servers in AWS and Azure and Google Cloud? What if it all just felt the same? Well, that's exactly the idea behind solutions like VMware Cloud Foundation, which comes from Dell and VMware. You can think of it like a piece of software that acts as a universal translator. It creates this one single, consistent management layer that sits on top of your on-prem data center and all your public clouds, making them all look and act the same. And here's where it gets really, really cool. This shows you the power. Imagine you've got a virtual machine running in your data center. Using the same VMware tools your team already knows and loves, you can do something called a vMotion. And with just a few clicks, that exact same VM is now running seamlessly in the public cloud. No retraining, no new tools, no headaches. It just works.
So a platform like this totally solves the management nightmare. But what about that other headache, the feature gap? Well, it also brings those cloud-native superpowers down to your on-premise hardware. For instance, with a service like VMware's Tanzu, you can run Kubernetes and containers right there in your own data center, just like you do in the cloud. Your on-prem environment gets to be cloudy too.
Okay, so that's the tech. It's pretty cool stuff, but what does it all really mean for you, for the people doing the work? Let's boil it down to the big takeaways. Here's the bottom line. First, you empower your existing team. Your VMware experts don't suddenly have to become experts in 5 different super complex cloud platforms from scratch. Second, you simplify everything. One set of tools to rule them all, to manage all your infrastructure no matter where it lives. And finally, that consistency means you drastically reduce human error, which saves a ton of time, a ton of money, and a whole lot of late-night emergency calls. And that kind of leaves us with a final interesting thought to chew on. For the last decade, we've been told to look up to the cloud for all the innovation. But what if the real key to unlocking the true power of this hybrid, multi-cloud world isn't about learning a dozen new complicated things, but about extending the power of the tools and the people you already have? What if the future of the cloud actually starts right back in your own data center?